there are those of us who long, and I'm going to use that word, to be in relationship.
Okay.
And I think that that's what people don't understand.
Okay.
That even though we're here and we've accomplished stuff and we're in our houses and we're traveling and we're doing whatever we are and we're perfectly fine. But that is not to say that the woman, the female side of us, does not long for a partner.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Unapologetically 50 Plus. My name is Angela. So, today we are going to talk about how women over 50 are overcoming loneliness and embracing life. We're going to explore the real emotions of being single after 50. But before we get started, I have one huge favor to ask. If you find any value or enjoy the content, please remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a comment, and let YouTube know you want more of this content. It's free and you are helping me build this community. So thank you. I truly appreciate your support. All right, let me bring my guest on and let's get this conversation started. Welcome, everyone. And I just have to welcome my beautiful guest, Miss Vicki Jones. She has just come back from an amazing trip in Kenya. And we were talking backstage about it, and it just sounds amazing. I'm gonna have her tell you guys a little bit about herself, and then we're gonna get this conversation started. So, hey, Miss Vicki, how you doing?
I am fine, Ms. Angela. Hello, hello to your audience. I am so pleased to be here. And I am Vicki L. Jones. I am a social entrepreneur. I'm a theater professional and an artist. I am the founder and executive director of Bahari Sisters, Inc., which is a small NGO headquartered here in Baltimore. I'm on the East Coast, Baltimore, Maryland. And Bahari, which means ocean in Swahili, is an organization that I founded in 2012. And we do outreach to Kenyan women and girls. So that's where I just returned from visiting, watching, seeing our projects and meeting with staff and the women in February. So I am now recovered from jet lag and back in Baltimore. So I'm certainly missing the 80-degree weather there.
Mm, yeah. You said NGO. What's that? I'm sorry, I don't
A
know.
non-governmental organization.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So, in this world where we're hearing how US aid has been shut down.
Yeah.
US AID is the large governmental, agency, the US that has been supporting projects around the world, helping people, everything from vaccines to
Okay.
women's genital mutilation, whatever, treating children that have gone through wars and all that kind of thing, whatever kind of distress that people around the world are in
Okay.
is the work of USAID. And so, now it's very sad all that's going on with the workers that have been laid off and the projects that have been shut down. So I always say, there are small NGOs, small organizations like Bahari that though we're small, we're still getting the work done. So, donors out there, people out there, if you're supporting something overseas, please find an organization that coincides with your, whatever is where you want to put your money to, so that you can still send those organizations those funds. That So now it's us doing the hard work.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
I might have you back just to talk on all the nonprofits and everything you do, because it sounds really interesting. And I have very little knowledge on, we hear about USA,
ID.
yeah,
Mhm.
USID, but I really don't know a lot about it. So I want to have you back on just to talk about that. That sounds really interesting. So, but today we are going to talk about, and this, when I have my ladies come on, I ask them, what do you feel comfortable talking about? And when you brought up this topic, I was like, oh, okay, let's do it. So we are going to be
Hmm.
talking about life after or single life after 50 and basically, how it can redefine your freedom and fulfillment because I think a lot of people think, well, women aren't satisfied or happy if they haven't been married or have children. And my husband and I talk about this a lot. Everybody, just like men, every woman doesn't want to go down that path, and there's nothing wrong with it. Or maybe you've gone down that path. You're no longer married, you're no longer in a relationship. Maybe your children are full grown adults as they probably would be in our age range, and you just want to remain single. And there's nothing at all wrong with that. So I think this is going to be a great conversation about that. And, I'm going to let you talk because you're going to be the expert on this one. So, anything you want to
I
add to that, ma'am?
I am going to say right off from the beginning, first of all, not only am I over 50, I'm over 60. In
Mm.
July, I will be 70.
I
So,
think you told me that when we had our first conversation, and
yes.
I still
So
don't
right
believe it.
now, I'm
So,
feeling like I'm 70.
okay.
And as I was thinking about, misconceptions of women over a certain age and how we feel about that and our comfort zone and our comfort level being in that space single, it came to me that I think in a lot of ways the misconceptions have sort of gone away. I think in a lot, and I'm saying this from my point of view with the women, my women friends, that a lot of us and a lot of people that we know and the circles that we operate in, people know that it's sort of taken for granted. You're over 50 and you're doing your thing and you're okay with that.
Hmm.
And and it's okay. So I don't think that there is a lot of need to tell people that we're okay. I think a lot of people know that we're okay.
Okay.
And I think that when I was one of the 400,000 on that call, on that first call with Win with Women, when
Hmm.
Kamala,
Right.
and I looked at the women because I was on those calls a lot of Mondays, and I look at the women that came on those calls and presented Donna Brazil and Bernice King. I mean, women who were over 50 who were doing their thing,
Right.
who were engaged, who were comfortable where they were. And so I think there's a vast majority of us who are okay with this. But I think that the little twist that I bring to it is that there are those of us who long, and I'm going to use that word, to be in relationship.
Okay.
And I think that that's what people don't understand.
Okay.
That even though we're here and we've accomplished stuff and we're in our houses and we're traveling and we're doing whatever we are and we're perfectly fine, but that is not to say that the woman, the female side of us does not long for a partner.
Okay.
And I think that many Black women, many sisters, we have just been in the hustle so long that we just keep being in the hustle. And we don't even stop to contemplate the fact that, you know what, there is something missing if I'm very real being honest.
Okay.
And it would be a shoulder to put our head on after we have flown across the world and gone through the airport and done this and that by ourselves.
Hmm.
It would be nice to, when I land in Nairobi, look at my phone and see that someone said, "Did you land safely?" And so I think that's something that that's not thought about, that we still need that nurturing of a partner. There's a vast majority of us, and I, as single, never married, a single child, no immediate family, um, no children. I'm single in a different way than my girlfriend who is single, divorced, but she has children.
Right.
And so, the singleness is has so many nuances to it
Right.
that, you can just set up all these categories. I was talking to my girlfriend last night, and she says, yeah, because she's twice divorced, and widowed from her second divorce, and has no interest in ever having another relationship. She says, well, you know me, I'm not trying to have nothing. I'm happy. I am fine. And yet she is like me, she was a single child. So it was just her and her mother. And that was the dynamic of me and my mother. So, her Thanksgivings are alone because she's in New York.
Mm.
And my Thanksgivings are alone unless someone invites me to their home, at which point I'm entering into a whole family dynamic
Right.
that I would just rather stay home and be by myself.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think that, one of your questions asked about, what kind of a workshop
Hmm.
would you have? And I was like, what kind of a workshop would I have with my viewpoint? And I think I would have a workshop where women would come and honestly say, yeah, we've done all the things, but we are missing relationships.
Yeah.
And the difficulty at our age is, where are those relationships? How do you find someone? That's like the major difficulty.
Right.
If you do want someone, how does that happen? I have friends who've gone on dating sites and it's been a nightmare. Um, People say, well, you meet somebody in church, that's another nightmare. Um,
And you're
it's like,
definitely not going out, to the clubs. That's definitely
that's
like,
over with.
right,
That
right,
phase
right,
is done.
right,
We don't even want to be out late at night. I've got um astigmatism and cataracts. I'm not driving at night.
right, right.
So I think that for me, if I were to have, to get a group of women together just chat honestly, it would be about, how do we address that we honestly have this space that we would like now to be filled, because we have done all the things and we would like to share all the things with someone, and we would like to have someone there that we can share all his things to.
Right. For you, is there when, and I've heard this before, that being single, whether whether it's a decision or just happens that way, what are you looking for yourself when it comes to, a partner? What are you looking for?
I would very much like someone with, a worldview,
Okay.
someone that I can have good conversation with, someone that I can rely on. As I say, I would like to be someone's priority. And I would like to have someone in that he is my priority. I don't feel like I'm anybody's priority. And I think a lot of women in my situation feel that. We even, I have, friends with children.
Hmm.
The children have their families,
Right.
and they are not long, the priority. And I think, that priority thing comes in with a mate, a partner.
Yeah.
And so, that's what I'm looking for, somebody to just share life with.
Right.
And, I'm single. This was not a choice. I've never said, oh, I don't want to be married, or, I'm going to work on my career to certain such and such an age, and
Okay.
then maybe I'll get married, but then it didn't happen. There were a couple of relationships in like my 30s, and there, while they were sort of serious, it was at a point where we were both working on our careers, and I ended up going to New York working in theater, and this person ended up doing what he was doing.
Hmm.
And while we're friends to this day, the coming together in marriage never happened because we were, doing what we were doing, becoming ourselves. And so it's not that I say, oh, I regret not getting married, or I wish, blah, blah, blah. As a Christian woman, I know that God ordered my steps.
Okay.
And when I think back now, I think, what, had I married that person or that person,
Mm.
I would never have done, I would never have, spent 10 years in New York, doing theater. I would never have gone to Nairobi and developed this organization the way I did, because that took time and it took a lot of focus, and that wouldn't have been something that as a wife
Yeah.
I would have been able to devote as much time to. So, I'm thankful, I would say, you're thankful for the ones that God didn't let you marry. And I am. But I do hold out that I believe in my spirit, he has not given me a sense of peace about being single for the rest of my life. So
Okay.
I believe that he's out there somewhere in the universe. And that's what I look forward to.
Okay. Now, what do you say? Because I've heard this before. What do you say, or what do you think when people question or say, well, there must be something wrong with, that person, that woman, because she's never been married, she doesn't have kids. So, because I've heard that before, listening to different YouTubes, that's the first thing sometimes men will say is, well, she, what's wrong with her? She's never been married, she don't have kids. And that's when I did my introduction, that's what I was really kind of thinking about. You have folks who make um uh what's what I'm looking for. They assume that there's something wrong with you because you haven't been married, or you don't have children and so forth, or you haven't been in a long-term relationship, or whatever. um what do you think about that? Or what could you tell women when they hear that nonsense? Because to me it's nonsense.
It's nonsense. And I just tell women to look at who you are, look at what your gifts and talents are, look at what your motivation is in life is. If you have been guided to do something that is taking you into a space where a relationship is not feasible,
Hmm.
or a relationship is not compatible with what you're doing,
Hmm.
then that's, you have to learn to stand in who you are.
Right.
And I think that, I really kind of just dismiss that kind of foolishness, and as an artist, to be different makes us who we are.
Right.
And so being different and being, the only one who has not been married, or, the only one in the family who doesn't have, the children and all that, there's probably a reason that has nothing to do with superficial personality traits or things like that. There's probably a gifting and some kind of special anointing
Okay.
that's in that person that needs to be fed. And if that woman is not operating in that gift because she feels like she needs to concentrate on the status quo of getting being married or whatever,
Mm.
that's someone that needs to, hopefully reach out to an elder sister that she can be encouraged to
Yeah.
be true to herself.
Okay. Okay.
Hmm.
I like that. So, if you could write a letter to your younger self about the benefits of being single later in life, what key experience or insight would you include?
I would, I'm not sure if it's necessarily a benefit. Well, I guess it's a benefit. You have your time, you have your space to do as you see fit.
Mhm.
And that's what people always say. Well, you're single, you've got your time, so that's a good thing. Well, as an artist, as a perfectionist, as a driven person,
Mm.
that means that I never stop working until often I have worked myself into a state where I'm either sick, not feeling well, just overwhelmed because while you have your time and your space to do whatever, there's no balance. There can be a lack of balance in your life for someone to say, you know what, you've done enough.
Okay.
You know what, it's time to stop. You know what, you've given enough to everybody else, and it's time for you to stop and replenish yourself. So I would think that one of the benefits can also be a vicious circle and turn into a negative.
Right. Right. Okay. Now, you talked about a little bit about going online and or your friend going online to these dating sites. So, how do you think the digital age has influenced, just being single, for the positive or for the negative? I mean, I'm assuming that you don't use dating apps because we kind of talked about that, but do you find that even using like some type of social media platform, does that kind of help with, maybe finding someone or even connecting with older or connecting with old friends or anything of that nature? Do you find digital media or digital social media a help or a hindrance?
No, I don't find it to be either. And I think that probably because I'm 70, maybe if I were a little younger, I would be more prone to be doing more social interaction on social media. But I mainly use social media for professionally.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the digital world and meeting people has not been part of my experience.
Okay. I'm the same
Yeah.
way. I use it for primarily business. I used to
Hmm.
use it for more entertaining, but then
Yeah,
it got so, I don't know, it's just so negative and it's just,
I know, I know. And I really love my favorite platform was Twitter when it was Twitter
okay.
because I back in the early days of Twitter, I actually made connections with a woman who was in California who had gone to Kenya, who we connected on Twitter. She introduced me to this architect in Kenya. We did a whole project. I met professional people around the world on Twitter. And
Okay.
I was able to form networks on Twitter. And I found that Twitter was the best space to really tap into what was going on the ground in countries around the world, with correspondence. It was all in who
Right.
you followed. And so when it changed up, I was very upset to have to give up Twitter because it was really good at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you with your endeavors and go, flying back and forth to Kenya and your nonprofit, would you want your mate to be able to do that with you?
Absolutely. He has to be mobile. Yes,
Okay.
he has to be. And the funny thing is that I say, and I guess this is one of the things about being older is because I don't know if you saw Cheryl Lee Ralph was saying that, she's in California, her husband's in Philly, and they're perfectly fine. They see each other when they I'm like, yeah, Lord, let him live in New York. I am fine. He can live in New York. We can be married. I can be up there in his apartment. We can meet in London. We can,
Right.
we can do whatever. Yes, whomever I mean needs to have his passport ready
And need to be able to be,
and
like
be
you said,
ready to go.
mobile.
And hopefully he can take me to places where he has been and share things with me,
Mhm.
that I don't know about.
Okay.
Yeah. The sit on the couch is kind of not,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't take you as a sit on the couch kind of lady. Not at all. Not when you're talking about being, gone for
Yeah,
2 months next year.
we got to be busy. Yes, we have to be busy. And yeah, so I'm looking for somebody to just bring joy and new stuff to my life.
Now, do you find that older gentlemen are, because they're so settled, that it's harder to find them to get out of their comfort zone and not want to just sit on the couch? I mean, I'm sure they're out there, but do you find it once, I mean, because we all, as we get older, we all get settled in our ways. Have you found that?
I'm telling you, we don't, I'm speaking for me and a couple girlfriends. We don't even know where they are. I don't know where you go to meet a gentleman nowadays. I really don't. I guess, I said that, this summer I'm going to deliberately go out to more music festivals and just be more social because I tend to not be, I'm very happy being in the house
Okay.
doing my work. This is my studio and this is primarily where I am in my studio doing my work. But I like to go out. But as a theater person, I actually prefer to go to plays by myself. So, I've had girlfriends like, why didn't you tell me you were going? I was like, oh, you know what? I forgot to tell you. But I prefer to go because it's like my happy space.
Okay.
Um, so we find it difficult to even meet people.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. I
Okay.
don't know. You can't be in the house and expect to meet somebody, but just generally speaking, those of you ladies who have husbands, you're very blessed because it's difficult to even meet someone. Someone did suggest to me speed dating,
Mm.
and I saw online speed dating for seniors,
Hmm.
and I think I might see what that's about. That sounds like
Okay.
fun. Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah,
But
even if nothing comes up, at least you had a good time.
you've had a
Hopefully,
conversation with some
had a
different people.
conversation. Exactly.
Yes. Yes. It's hard out here.
Hey, I have some girlfriends who, we're all in our mid to late 50s, and they're telling me the same thing. They're like, I don't, and the guys that I do meet, it's still a lot of game playing, even in our 50s. And I'm going, really? And she's
Yes.
like, yeah, there's a lot of, and they're not trying to meet younger people. They're not trying to meet
Yeah,
someone, that's 10 or 15 years younger. They're trying to meet, gentlemen their age. And, they're saying it's still a lot of the game playing. And I'm like,
it is. It really is. Yeah. So I
okay. So, what's one myth about love and companionship after 50 that you've debunked through your own life experiences?
I don't know that I've debunked. I don't know that I've debunked anything. I just think that I have come to be honest with the fact that I'm I'm really wanting someone
Okay.
to share my life with, and that is a scenario for many women my age out here. Yeah.
Do you think, and because they're not on social media and they're not plastering everything out there, do you think that there's not enough women out there, you know, saying that I want companionship? Because I see a
Mhm.
lot of, oh, I'm good without a man. I'm
And
this, I'm that.
that
And it's like, and
that's
there's
what
nothing, and again, like I said, there's nothing wrong with that. Because I've always said, if something happens to my husband, because we're not getting a divorce, so if something ever happens to my husband, I don't think I'd ever remarry. I'd because I've done it for so long, I don't think I would ever remarry. It's time it would be time for me to live out my dreams and things that I really want to do. But you hear so many women, I don't need a man, I don't want a man, even in our age range. And it's like, but is that really true?
and
Are
that's
you
what I
just
was
telling
saying.
yourself?
That's what I was saying at the beginning, that is what so many women say. And I think they say it as a defense against what they really feel. And that for some reason sisters feel that we have to be independent, we have to be strong, and that then filters over into relationships, and that it is somehow not safe to want to be in a space with where you're covered
Okay.
by a man, and where you are able to act in your femininity
Okay.
and not be have to be the strong one and put up the defense because there isn't someone there. Just because there isn't someone there doesn't mean that you have to act like it's okay that there's not someone there.
Okay.
It's okay to say, I don't like that I'm alone.
Okay.
I'm yes, I'm fine, but it could be better
Yeah.
where there's someone to share life with.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, as human beings, we were meant to be in community. We were meant to be with
Yes.
someone. We're
Yes.
not meant to be isolated and alone. And I think, a lot of us forget that because we're also in an environment where autonomy, and when I say environment, I'm talking about the America, where being, having your autonomy, while it's important, yes, but we have to remember that community is even more important. And especially, I would say, because I've only lived my life as a Black woman, especially in the Black community, we need that
Especially.
community. That
Yes,
community.
we absolutely
We
do.
we we need, that companionship. So yeah. Well, I'm glad you said that because, like I said, you hear so much the negative side of, well, I don't need a man and all that neck rolling and stuff. It's like, are you sure? And
Yeah.
maybe it's the age range, maybe, the few times I am on social media, maybe it's the age range, but I would love to
Mhm.
hear more, older women be honest about that. And, and if you're perfectly fine and don't you don't, want a male companionship or companionship, then that's fine too. But I'm
Hmm.
glad you said that, and it's good to hear that, yeah, while you're okay, you still would like to have, that companion, that person, your person, you know, in your
Yes.
life. So that's
Yes.
good. So, and I know we talked about this a little bit, but how do you handle if this has come up, and I'm sure it has over the years for you, but how do you handle the societal pressures or stigmas associated with being single at this stage in your life? Or even in your 50s or your 40s, was there any pressure and people saying, "Why are you still single? Why?" And how did you handle that? Because like I said before, we in this country, we look at women, if they're not if they're not married or they haven't been
Hmm.
married or haven't had children, then there's that stigma. So,
I think that I haven't had a lot of that.
okay.
And I think that probably a lot of that kind of comment can come from people in inner circle, family, uh, friends who are married and you're not. And with me not having family, where there's cousins and sisters who are married, and why aren't you married, and nephews and all that, and also being in theater, um, because I was in New York most of my 30s, 40s, and everybody, I mean, some people, you're married, you're together, you're whatever,
Mm,
that was my community.
okay.
So being married or not married was not even,
Okay.
yeah. And then when I came back to Baltimore, I was working for I was working at a theater department. I was working in theater, and I did start to work for the state of Maryland, which I retired from after 17 years working for the state of Maryland. At the same time, I was adjunct in theater and doing costuming. And so those kinds of things in that community, being married and settled down with having children, are not even
Okay.
like the norms necessarily.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, well, that's good because you do have a lot of folks who feel the pressure to get married.
Hmm.
It's like, and like I said, your 20s is to me, I always think my 20s is a time to you do all your dumb stuff,
Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
get all that out the way. 30s when you start to, really focus on your career or settle down or whatever. 30s, yeah, 30s, and then 40s, you're starting to slow down a little bit. You're still at the height of your career. And 50s, I know for me, 50s are like, okay, you know, it's time to really settle down. But for women, it just seems like there's so much pressure to,
Hmm.
again, at least what I've heard, what I'm
Yeah,
seeing on
no,
the
yeah,
internet, there's
because
so much pressure to get married, have kids. It's like, well, I don't want to do
yeah,
that.
no, yeah, because I think I was 50 when I first went to Kenya. So
Mm,
that whole life didn't start till 50.
right.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's why I say that 50 is like almost like that pivotal moment where you're like, it's like something just goes, oh, and things, I mean, at
Yes.
least for me, things change and you're like going, what else can I do? How can I really open up and be this amazing woman that I'm meant to be? And, so I think 50s to me is when life really starts getting
The
good for most
50s
of
were
us.
very good.
Yeah.
Yes, I really love the 50s. Yes.
Yeah. So, so, and I'm not sure if this, well, I'm asked anyway. So, how has being single after 50 affected your financial planning and priorities differently than if you were part of a couple?
I don't think, well, I think being single and not necessarily the age, being single and my mother had dementia and Alzheimer's,
Okay.
and she went the whole process of that decline was over, it was like 8 or 9 years.
Wow.
And that was when I was working for the state of Maryland. And so my only child, I was working in Annapolis, which is sort of near DC, and living in Baltimore. So we're talking about, 2 hours from work to my house to where she was in assistant living every day, 2, 3 days.
Yeah.
It was a lot. So that made me start to think about just aging in general, even at 40 and 50, as a single person with no children.
Yeah.
What does that even look like? You know?
Right.
Um, so I think about that all the time, and it's funny because someone said to me the other day, well, when you travel, who do you put down as your contact person? And I said, it's my neighbor, my girlfriend neighbor 2 doors up.
Okay.
And, they were shocked because most people put,
There.
if not the partner, a family member, but, there is not that person. So, financially, and having lived most of my life as a theater person,
Hmm.
where you're just doing your work and having fun in New York and you're not paying taxes and you're doing whatever, that was a big chunk of career where the average person who is working is maybe saving, is maybe doing a 401 or whatever.
Right.
Um, that those of us in that arena didn't even think about doing. So, as when you get to my age, you start to, how am I as a single person? What does long-term care look like? What does just, if you have a mishap in the house, who's going to come help you?
Have you
Um,
thought about moving to another country where,
well, my goal is to be in Kenya half of the year
okay.
and here half of the year. But then again, when you talk about growing older and the healthcare system, then you have to think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Being in a country where healthcare is not that good for certain people, but although as an expat and an American, I would be okay because I could go to the best hospitals. Um, but and that's a subject that my girlfriend and I in New York all think about, about finances, and it is what it is at the moment,
Right.
you just have to maneuver as best you can financially in terms of what it's going to look like down the road, because it is only you, but if you're not making, you know hundreds of thousands of dollars, then you just say, Lord, cover me, and I'm going to be faithful and see how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah. That was one of my biggest things about wanting to move to another country was the healthcare and
Hmm.
the ex the expense of being out here in America. And then that's why I was looking, and that was one of my top priorities when I was like, okay, what am I looking for in a country? And that was like top five of what I needed, from a country, and meaning having good health care, or at least having health care that I could afford,
Hmm.
even if I had to buy private insurance. So that's one of the things I was like, okay, does that country check off my box?
Yes.
But yeah, so that's why I don't know, that's why I asked, because I think, if you have to think about it that way, maybe moving to another country that offers decent health care would at least, be something that's available um, for you. So, all right. So, in what ways have you found joy and fulfillment? in solitude that might surprise those who fear being single later in life? And this question, when I saw this question, when I was writing out this question, I was thinking about it for myself as a woman who's been married. I've been with someone longer or more than half my life. And you have a lot of women who might be going into singlehood later in life. What would be some examples or some things that you would tell them about being single later in life? What are some of the fulfillments and some of the joys that you found?
Again, I don't think that for me it was necessarily because it's later in life,
Okay.
because this is all I know. And I've just grown into how to appreciate solitude um, more spiritually for me
Okay.
as I've grown older.
Hmm.
How to really embrace how I interact with my God in my moments of solitude as an older woman, how to slow down and how to deal with, things like anxiety that may rise up because of being overwhelmed, or or anxiety that may rise up because I am alone and I'm sick of being alone. Um, so, for someone coming into this new who is like, oh, all of a sudden, here I am by myself, and the anxiety arises. Um, I always say to find what is your greater your God, to bring that entity into your space,
Okay.
to learn how to appreciate where you are, to learn how to be present where you are at that point, and just to learn how to ground yourself
Okay.
in your solitude.
Okay. Okay. What misconceptions about being single after 50 do you want to dispel based on your own experience?
I think that, that what we've been talking about, that it's not all roses, even though it may appear to be.
Hmm.
That what people may see on Instagram. People may see that, I had a great, I just, I had a fabulous trip. I met a lot of people, I was brunching, and, I had the desk clerk called this gentleman Johanna when I needed an Uber, and he turned out to be my Uber driver. And so, I felt safe and wonderful there. I went and I fed the giraffes, which was the highlight of my trip, feeding the giraffes.
Hmm.
But what they don't see is that, it would have been wonderful to have a man there feeding the giraffes with me.
Okay.
That would have been nice, to hand the phone to my man and not to a stranger to take the pictures of. So I think that the myth that I would like to dispel is that it's okay to admit that even though we are Wonder Women, it's okay to have a Superman or someone there. It's okay.
It's okay.
It doesn't take anything away from all that you've accomplished. It's okay.
Okay. I like that. I like that. And my last question, what does being unapologetically, in your case, 60 plus,
69.
what does being unapologetically 69 mean to you?
It means waking up every morning and knowing that I have a God who has me in his hands, whom I can rely on,
Mhm.
and whom I can look to for the next step of my journey. It means that I no longer feel like I have to think everything out, that I have embraced being an elder and that I like it,
Okay.
and that I am bold in who I am, unapologetically bold in operating in my gifts and talents because that's what God put me here on the earth to do.
Okay. I love it. I love it. Well, Miss Vicky, thank you so much. This has been an amazing talk. You have opened up my eyes on a lot of things. I'm gonna stop listening to folks on Instagram because they don't know what they're talking about.
They don't. No, they
But
don't.
stop pretending, ladies. Stop pretending. It's
Stop
okay.
pretending. Yes, it's okay. It's okay to be warm and fluffy and a girl. It's okay.
Right, right, right. Exactly. So, her information, please check out her website and check out all of the things that she is doing. Her information will be in the description notes below. Um, I'm excited to hear when you go back to, you said Kenya in
Yes.
January for 2 months.
Hmm.
Do you post? So you don't, I didn't see anything when you sent me YouTube. So you don't post anything on YouTube. Do you post anything on anywhere?
Yes.
Oh, you do?
We have a YouTube channel.
Okay. Did
We
you
have
did you send that
Bahari.
to me?
Uh-huh.
Okay, well then I will
We have a
check it out
Bahari
myself.
YouTube channel and we
Okay,
have Instagram and we have a LinkedIn that's just Bahari.
okay.
And
Well
then
then
we
I would
have
definitely,
those three that are me. Yes.
I'm going to subscribe because I definitely
Mhm.
want to see what you're doing and
Yes.
you and live vicariously through you.
Yes. Yes. And yeah, when you want to come to Nairobi after I'm connected
Oh,
and hooked up, please
oh,
do. Yeah.
oh, hey, you just opened up that invitation. There you
Yes.
go.
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
Mhm.
Please remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification, leave a comment, and I will see you again next week. Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.